This is In Touch with Terri, a power-packed podcast for the medical aesthetics industry.
I just discovered your podcast, and I feel like I've hit a gold mine.
This is someone who's got a lot of knowledge. She's been there, done that.
Terri Ross is a former Fortune 500 executive, international speaker, founder and co-CEO of Apex Platform, and Terri Ross Consulting.
Just listening to her energy and her passion and just how hardcore she is.
Her knowledge of the industry and just her connections in general are phenomenal.
In Touch with Terri will bring you solutions to increase operational and employee efficiency and practice profitability. Plus, features some of the top industry experts as guests.
The Apex team literally changed the game for us.
Terri, your courses and your podcast are just so helpful.
She made me feel like I could do this.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Now, here's Terri.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of In Touch with Terri. I'm really excited to be here today with kind of this badass guy, Eric Casaburi. You guys are not going to want to miss this, so stay tuned. I always have the big, the best, the brightest, but I was really impressed with Eric's background. He's a brilliant businessman. We're going to get into his pedigree in a little while, but Eric Casaburi is the founder and the CEO of Serotonin Centers in Orlando, and he has an extensive background, and we're going to be having a very high-level, down and dirty, enlightening conversation about his entrepreneurial spirit, his journey, and his passion for advancing the health and wellness level of being for men and women. So, Eric, thank you so much for being here. Really excited to have you.
It's great to be here, Terri, and I'm glad we're talking. It's always nice to have a riff with you.
Listen, there's one person we can go toe to toe, right? I'm down for it. So Eric, you had retained us to help you start your brand new medical aesthetic practice, which again, so honored to work with you and so proud of your relentless success in such a short period of time. So I want the tribe to learn a little bit about your background. It's highly impressive. And I think as an entrepreneur myself with big vision, it always lights me up to see somebody else's hard work and dedication and vision come to fruition. So, Eric, you've spent, I think, 15 plus years growing big recognized fitness brands. Is that correct?
Actually, yeah, a little more than that. So I started in the fitness industry, and I'm going to date myself here, Terri, which I don't like to do, especially to your listeners, because they're all great.
That's why you look so freaking good. Listen.
Yeah, I live my model. So we started in the fitness industry. I started almost 25, 26 years ago, and I opened my first health club. So it's been a minute. Franchising that business came a few years later, and we could talk about that too, about when you should franchise. That's a great point that your listeners might really be interested in hearing. But yeah, I built that brand to 153 locations, I think, before I had stepped down to start my next big boom, and we were doing about 156 million in revenue at the peak there, system wide. It was an incredible franchise. Still is an incredible franchise. We're doing great there. I still sit on the board of that company, as a matter of fact, and I'm still an equity shareholder there, and very excited about what's coming in the future of that business because it sits in the health and wellness space. And as you know, I'm very passionate about health and wellness, which is the iteration of what serotonin is, the next step, the next phase for all people that are practicing good health practices and exercising and nutrition.
So clearly, again, you have this, uber successful background. And you're right. I mean, it's so fluid that they all go together, right? Gyms, fitness. And now you have the whole internal part of everything that we don't have a choice. We're all aging. Let's call it what it is. We're not spring chickens anymore. And how do we age and be our best selves, but not just on the outside and on the inside? And certainly I think I see a doctor out there in Orlando, and I have never had more 50 tubes of blood. I mean, I had to go in 3 days, for God's sake. I thought I was going to pass out. But, you are such an enthusiast. When did you decide or realize that you wanted to kind of make a change or augment what you were already so successful at in these gym franchisees into really saying, I want to take it to the next level?
It was part of my own self-practice, Terri. I mean, you've known me a while and you've met my wife, Kim. And really it was a combination of something that happened to her, which was early menopause, which we had no clue what the hell it was at the time. Multiple pregnancies and skidding into menopause, thinking like what's happening, and getting really bad conversation from the OBs that she was currently seeing at the time. And I've quoted some of the things that were said to her that would blow your mind. And then myself as well, being an early stage biohacker. Like, there's a handful of great people that have been doing this a long time. And I started following a lot of them, many, many years ago, because I was just doing stuff on myself. Same thing like with exercise and fitness. I got my first personal training certificate because I was so enthused to make myself better in the gym. And then it wound up leading to a great income for me because I started training people as well. Similar to this, as I realized there was a lot of things that were working for me and being around my peers. And then when Kim and I were going through the process of doing all these different types of things that today are services now at Serotonin, people are like, how do you guys look that way at 42, 43, 45, 50? They're like, what are you guys doing? It wasn't just exercise, nutrition. Of course, that's a component of it. That is, we still believe that is 100% absolutely important. There's lots of great data and science on that. But it was all of these other things that I was doing personally. And I said, man, this is not only good for me. I was sharing tips and tidbits with friends. Hey, try this, try that. Blood work, like you just talked about, recommending certain tests they should be getting, learning about your hormones, understanding those levels. A1C, what does that mean? Metabolic syndrome, what does that mean? Visceral fat, what does that mean? Kind of helping define these key core terms that we talk about all day long at Serotonin, right? And then when 2019 hit and I had stepped down as the CEO at my last brand, I said, you know what? I'm going to work on this and I'm going to work on it diligently. And that's around the time that we had met. And that's, so you talk about dating, like, hey, when did we meet? That's when we met, because that's when I started sourcing who were the people in this industry. Because I knew everybody in the other industry. I mean, I could tell you every consultant, every top tier person to talk to, every great educator in that business, because I've worked with all of them, but I was there many, many years. So I had to do a lot of lean work fast and hard to get up to speed. I said, okay, well, where do we go for this particular business? Because this is a unique one. And then that's how we met, and hence a couple of conferences later and a lot of A4Ms and AM spas and you name it. and all your other people, Bertadados later, it's all there. We're name dropping at this point.
All right, no, name dropping, right. It takes an army for sure. Well, okay, so now how many years have you been? 2 years? Where are you going into right now?
Yeah, so the anniversary for our flagship store here, it will be July, it'll be 2 years. We opened up in 2021. And we learned a lot, as you know, in the business. And I always say this to everyone. My first gym, for example, 1997, we were geographically successful. I may have talked to you about this when we first met. I'm like, you can be really crappy and still win if you're just in the right place at the right time. It doesn't mean you're a great operator, but if you're fortunate enough to learn from all the missteps, you can become a great operator along the way and survive. Most people, if they're a shitty operator and they wind up in a bad spot or a bad location because they didn't want to pay the right rent or they didn't negotiate the deal well, they wind up on the side. Like, they're done. They get wiped out. We were decent at what we did, but we were in a great location and my timing was really good. It wasn't by my own pick. It was just happened that way in my life. It was fate.
Yeah. Well, again, I want to remind everybody that, again, Eric's background, right? A very, very highly, highly experienced entrepreneur, CEO. One of his, again, startups was doing around 150 million a year in sales with a national footprint. So he's very adept and skilled in the startup phase and the franchising and the business operations. And he's got a proven method. And I think that is what we want to dive into a little bit deeper today, because I had 4 calls with private equity last week. 4 calls. Big money is around. And they are buying up and ready for it. And sadly, people are not positioned for an exit strategy. And I think in April, we're going to be having a webinar and a topic on that. But I think whether you're considering, and I want to talk to it with Eric about it, right? What is franchising? Can I do it? How do I do it? When, why, who, what, where, how? And or what does just my exit strategy look like? So again, Eric, congratulations. I want to talk about your other locations. You guys all know I'm such a believer. We talk about our value proposition a lot, our your unique value proposition. And a lot of people might just be like, yeah, Terri, I got it. Or that's stupid. Well, it's not stupid. Okay. We don't need to be worried about what our competition's doing down the street. You need to check yourself and take a good hard look at yourself. And so how did you decide on the name for Serotonin and all the services that you offer? I mean, it's fitting, but I remember going through this thing with you.
So Serotonin was officially the hardest trademark I've ever done. I've done quite a few. I mean, you only know about the brands that you see that whether it was on Undercover Boss or some of the other stuff, but Serotonin was crazy to trademark it. And I laughed with our attorneys and I said, well, I've got the time and we've got the money, so let's just keep pushing back. And it wound up working out really well. And we trademarked it and we actually got it in multiple categories. But we really wanted the word serotonin. And it was kind of actually my oldest daughter, Carmela, who you've met also, Terri, and actually in Zooms, like she's always walked in the background a few times, who, by the way, now is graduating. She's graduating Columbia University and going to Columbia Med School now. So she's on her way.
Congratulations.
Yeah. We'll be hopefully getting some of my investment back after she's done with that. That's a very well planned thing happening there. But so it was actually our conversations in the happy hormone, because we always talked about how you make people happy and how doing these types of things is really our goal, was to just make people feel good, look good and feel good. And serotonin is your feel good hormone, right? We all know that. So that was something I really wanted it to resonate. I knew it could be tied to a great brand. And I knew if I nailed logo and that's one thing I do pretty well. I always tell people I'm not very mechanically inclined, but if you want me to help you draft a logo and a business plan around the brand, I can do that really well, probably in inside of a couple of hours.
Better than normal, sure.
So that's one thing that was really important. And so we got the name and we worked through it and we of course, trademark is important, especially for a brand. If you expect to scale and grow big, you've got to control the IP on that. And we did. And that was probably about I would say close to a year working on that. Like that was that was happening in the background every day, calls with attorneys, letters, doctors writing letters. I mean, we did some crazy stuff, crazy stuff.
Imagine it's a big deal. I mean, look, it's this is something you can't go back and change, and it really has to resonate and look and feel and give somebody that visceral, effect. And then knowing what I'm going to get when I walk in the door.
Yep. It's all part of it.
So clearly there is so many people, as you know. I think when the medical spa report came out this year, there should be around, 8,900 med spas. And when I say that, you guys, that is a compilation of, anti-aging, wellness, plastics that have med spas. It's not a one size fits all. And there are people that really, again, and if you're a non-core, people see this dream and this cash cow, and it's not like that. And you're a businessman, and I remember us going through your performas. What services are we going to do? Gross profit on this stuff, cost of goods here, space, flow and efficiency. It's a lot of shit. And it's one thing, because I think you knew in your mind, as it related to your fitness background, what is my place going to offer that is holistic, right? That can feed sort of the branches of the business that you've been in. But what can you share with the tribe for these people that are in these beginning infancy stages that want to build a brand? And sometimes people think it's no big deal. They're like, I'm going to get my sister down the street for free, the cheap ass guy to do and I hate to dismiss anybody. Don't kill me here. But I'm just speaking authentically that it's a big deal. So what advice would you have?
Well, talking to the point that you just mentioned, Terri, because it is critical, the business plan and the structure and the ProForm it's very boring stuff for a lot of people. But when I tell you it is paramount, it's like the most important thing you do. And then understanding that you're going to iterate that. And you and I worked through that thing tirelessly with Robbie and your team. And and I came from a business that I had a lot of, I don't do anything without a ProForm, right? And we drill in to every line item, how much are the garbage bags, the nylon gloves, right? What are you buying from here? Are you buying from McKesson? We did everything. And it was tedious, and I will tell you, we just did a ProForm update last week. Literally just last week, we re-upped what did we learn? What did we do last quarter? Mm-hmm. How did our purchases change? We just cut a new deal with Allergan. What does that look like? And because that is like the lifeblood of the business. Building the brand, all I call it the glam and the lights and the glitter. That will come. But if you don't do this stuff, this boring tactical stuff, right? Listen, you're in business. Read the E-Myth book, right, by Michael Gerber. If you haven't read that book, you need to read it for any of your listeners. That's a key book. It's going to talk to you about which personality are you out of those three. And you need to understand that, if you're going to own a business, you need to think like an entrepreneur, but you also have to understand that there's a management component and there's an employee component. Those three humans, those have to coexist in your head. So when I talk to people and I have these conversations, especially startups, and for your listeners, I would say that it's really important to understand that the glory is in the boring stuff, because that's what's going to help you survive. And then as you get rolling, as we did, I said we were open for almost 2 years now. The first 12 months was like a learning phase. You better have working capital, because like if you don't have enough working capital, someone like us will come in and just smash you out of the world. Like, because we'll outmarket you, we'll outspend you, we'll outstay you, because we can do that in a market. And so that's when you talk about competition. Like we really, I've always been this way. Like I don't play to the band's music, right? Like we are the band. Like that's what I tell people. Like we're just going to come into a market and we're going to do what we do, because we know we only focus on the B2C, the end customer. I'm not focusing on what someone else is doing out there. We know what we do by trial and error, and it is trial and error, right? We learned we had enough time to say, let's make this better, finite this, do this. Let's not do that anymore. Let's add this. Let's put this. And not that you're going to restructure your entire business plan, but once you have your hedgehog, now you just want to keep polishing that wheel as it's going along. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do really, really well. But we learned for 14 months. In fact, we just rehacked the whole Google SEO. I mean, like when I say rehacked it, like our conversion rate went through the roof because we made a couple of changes to landing pages, like, because we just figured it out. And we're like, it was like the lights on. Now we were spending a good amount of money, mind you, and we were getting a great, I would think most of your listeners would think like, wow, those are great sales. But when we figured this part out, it was like, whoa, we had to hire 2 more people just to book appointments, literally. Just to book. Yeah, well, it was awesome. It was like the great, like, and I'm like sweating still talking about it, because I'm still excited about it, because I'm like, wow. And now we can we iterate this to our franchisees, right? So we've got this new information. We say, okay, we're going to do it this way. But that's, again, I always say, if you're a franchisor or thinking about being one, you need to constantly add value, because trust me, your franchisees are going to always say, what did you do for me tomorrow, not yesterday? So you got to remember that it's a thankless business, but you got to always be performing well.
Well, I want to kind of just repeat back a few things that you said, because I want it to sit home and resonate. And I'm saying this too from a little bit of a self-serving space, that when people, obviously, Terry Ross Consulting switched over to Apex. And why did we do that, right? We all know there's not a lot of places to go to have one place for consistent analytics, data. You and I talked about it ad nauseum, because I know you're a hardcore trainer with your team, the training. And people will say, well, I did it. I'm like, you did it once? Like, how are you an expert in sales, or how are you an expert in educating to do this treatment plan that we all believe in so that the patients are happy and come back, but you did it once? Or when you just talked about the performa is, right, the glory is in the boring stuff, but without that, and how many iterations and tweak and tweak and tweak. If you own a business, you're an entrepreneur and you have an obligation, and this stuff isn't static. It always is evolving. So I just really wanted to hone in on that comment, because I think that more people really need to embrace that, because that is how you build successful brands. And without it, again, that's like getting in our car with no navigation and we're winging it. And, we wonder why we're lost in the ditch somewhere.
100%.
So when you established your brand, and now how many locations do you have now?
So we've got 44 in the pipeline right now, and we've got 5 currently under construction, and our franchise sales pipeline is like growing by the second, it seems. It's just crazy. We have another store about to open in New Jersey. Looks like the beginning of this coming month. So hopefully in the beginning of next month, we'll be open. They're coming in for training the end of this month. So we're excited about that. But we're even, again, when you have that kind of growth, you got to, there's construction delays. There's different types of headaches that start to happen than just your usual in practice type stuff that are there. So, you got to understand when you're growing a business and you're creating a brand and you're scaling, there's other types of challenges you need to manage. So that's something that someone that's thinking about doing that has to understand. And I say this often to people, no matter what it is, whether it's a hot dog stand, coffee shops, whatever it is, you pick a brand, a type of industry, you go from being in the business of running your particular and your business, right? So let's say medical aesthetics, to being a B2B person, because now you have to manage franchisees or other people. So sometimes franchising may not be the best way to scale. If you love to be an operator, you might want to just open up more quote unquote corporate stores or your own stores. And that might be another, there's nothing wrong. Each model is awesome, right? Dunkin' Donuts is a franchising brand and Starbucks is a corporate store brand model. Like, so they both very successful, both those companies, 2 completely different business plans, executing on a B2C with coffee.
Yeah. Maybe we're jumping around, but this is a great segue. What kind of people would you look for, right? Or that would maybe seek to show interest in having a serotonin franchisee? And or if somebody was thinking about that, what are the non-negotiables in terms of how they run their business that they have to be able to do it?
Most franchisors have some minimum qualifications that you see online. That's the stuff just to kind of the ante. Like you've got to have, of course, a certain net worth and all the financial stuff, but that's not really the most important factor. For us, it's who you are, not just, what your bank account shows, because there's a handful of types of people that we would prefer. And I say prefer, it weighs heavily when we're kind of interviewing you. A lot of franchisors get interviewed by franchisees, but we'd actually make it a dual interview. You can interview us, but we're also interviewing you as well. And really what we're looking for is people with operational talent. We sell a lot of multi-unit development, right? So we want people that are scalable, that they want to scale the brand, that they're excited around what we do. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to be a participant in the brand, but I always say it's if you, and I'll use coffee again, if you sell coffee and you don't drink coffee, that's always weird to me. If you're in this business and I'm proud to say at 48 years old, I do Botox and I do it like every 80 days. I don't even wait 90 days anymore, right? And I know how it's supposed to work, right? But I sweat a lot, so I get around that, right? But anyway, I digress. But I tell people that when we're looking at the qualified candidates, we also really care about. It doesn't have to be a medical practitioner, but we care that you understand what we do, that you're excited about what we do. And if you're a medical practitioner, great, because in some states, it makes it a lot easier, right? Depending on the corporate practice of medicine. I don't know how much in the weeds we want to go here. We can talk about MSOs and MSAs and all that stuff that all these years I've learned about with Brad and company. But I will tell you that we like people that have sometimes operated their own business in the past. That's great because they understand there's dark days and there's sunny days, right? And that's just business. Everyone talks about the big numbers that I did in my other businesses, but let me tell you, there were some dark days early on. Of course there were. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows through my career, that's for sure. There were some nights, you twiddle your thumb staring at the ceiling thinking,
right.
Wow, yeah, we got payroll to make here and we got to keep going. Yeah. So, those individuals that have some experience operating, we really like a lot, obviously. And if they've got franchising experience, even better. Not necessarily, of course, but we're seeing that. We're seeing people that have other businesses. The last 2 franchises we sold were people that had franchising background, believe it or not. We just sold a 6 deal up in Boston and a 4 unit in Northern Virginia. And both of those candidates actually came from other franchisors. They were looking to expand their portfolio. But we also have people that have never been in franchising at all, but they've had other companies. We have attorneys. We just look for qualified people that we believe can get the job done. And the job done is growing whatever development you decide to take on. And
let's talk about the staffing. I know you and I have had numerous conversations. We've talked about training. Do they get trained by your team at your flagship store? How does that work? And how do you get good talent? It's hard.
That's a great question. It's a little bit of both. So we decided to move away from the very competitive model of recruiting people because I have found, my personal experience, of course, that I recruited them in their shitty luggage and I decided I don't want your luggage. I just said, no, thank you. I decided to take a harder path, which I think will pay dividends and already is. We are recruiting people that are not skilled in aesthetics. They are highly interested in that. But what we do is we say, hey, we'll pay for all your training. We'll put you through all this training with the best. We'll take Allergan's, as you know, we are a partner with Allergan. They are one of our top vendors, right? So we'll do they'll have their master trainers come in. We've got to deal with them we have a specific sequence and cadence of training that all of my people can get trained, whether it's in our Orlando flagship, it'll be regional now as we move into Nashville and we move into Boston and we move into New Jersey. Same thing with our hormone training, very similar. We've got an arrangement. So we train all of the non-medical stuff, we train ourselves. So it's our team doing sales, phone calls, scripts, all of the stuff that is so important. And a lot of it we work together on. You helped me with so much of that early on. We do all of that. In fact, we have a call center now where we'll inbound all the leads and set the appointment. So we've got a really cool thing we do for our franchisees. That's just awesome. We do back office too, like your QuickBooks Online, your ADP payroll. We do it all. Like we have a service they can pay for and we'll just do it. Yeah. Like you just give it to your accountant at the end of the quarter. We'll give you your P&Ls. And it's really nice because everything comes out of the software. We spent an obnoxious amount of time. Terry, I want to pull my eyeballs out telling this story about how much time we spent just getting the chart of accounts so it can flow with an API with a webhook that we can take it out of our software into your QuickBooks and into your ADP. So everything's like boom, boom, boom. People don't realize that stuff's important. When you look at a P&L, you got to know how much I make. And you taught me this. What's my profit in Botox? What's my profit in hormones? What's my profit in cool sculpting? I can tell you the percent. I can tell you where when we're doing a sale, we know it all. But like, it took me years.
It was one of the best students. I love it. But what you're saying is so critical, because this is the silly, ignorant stuff, sadly, that if you don't know it, then you're paying labor costs that are too high. You're running a discount, and nobody's making any money, and everybody wonders why.
Right. At the end of there's more month at the end of the money, as they say.
Yeah. How do you determine the locations?
So we've got some pretty sophisticated software that helps us do that, right? And again, here's the benefit of being where we are. We're well capitalized. We invest in growth and safe growth. Now, there's no guarantees. Like, we could have software out the wazoo. We do boots on the ground. We have an incredible broker network. So we find markets that fit our core demography, right? So we understand what income we want to go after, what's the minimum amount of people. So the population stats, age is really important in ours, right? We really hone in on that. So we spend a lot of money on these and there's some great platforms. Listen, you can get a free set of demographics from a real estate person. Yeah. That's shit. Like, it's garbage. Like, you can use it. It'll get you started. But what we do is we really drill in. We also have an arrangement, one of the largest, what I call boutique brokers, because they really are very boutique for us, the way they service our franchisees. And they do site selection based on our criteria, based on our letter of intent, based on our sites. We have a 4-page site selection form where literally talks about the parking spaces, where is an end cap. It's not like we do some crazy stuff. And then we say, okay, and we grade it. We literally grade the locations. And then we say, okay, this versus this. We put a competitive analysis in there. But again, that's not because we're afraid to go into market. That's for us to see how much can we steal from our competitor, because we know we're coming in with a 4-1 and they're probably a 2-1. Like, they might be just an aesthetic clinic. Well, great. We do hormones. They come in, we start talking to them, we put them through that cool little folder that Tammy and us, we made, right? And Plug and Tammy, love her. But what we do is, we'll say, well, Terry, yeah, we do Botox here, we do filler here, but if we get you on hormones and we talk about your elastin production, your collagen production, we have some supplements for that. We put you on we have an aesthetics pack, serotonin nutraceuticals, right, that we do and we customize for them. We then get that client to be like, wait, I was just going to get 60 units across the street I'm in and out in 10 minutes, and no one told me any of this stuff. And I'm like, well, so we really dive deep with our people. We're not looking to mill 90 people through the door. We're very concierge, right? So if we see 20 or 30, that's great, because we're just a different experience. We're an experiential brand. So it changes how we do things. But getting on a tangent off of your original question, site selection is critical. How we do it is very scientific, and there's still no guarantees. Let me tell you, you can check every box, and they could change a traffic light and exit, and all of a sudden you got a different problem on your hands.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that you are doing weight loss, hormones, and all of the non-surgical med spa services. Yes? Did I miss anything?
So there's really 4 buckets. So weight loss, medical weight loss, hormone replacement therapy. We do medical aesthetics and just aesthetics, right? So we'll do hydrofacials, we'll do skin pen, microneedling, that stuff. Of course, Botox fillers. And then our 4th category is our restorative category. So we do a lot of IVs, immunity therapy, red light therapy beds, inflammation management. Because what happens is most people that come in with really low testosterone, low hormones, generally their cortisol is jacked up. They're stressed out. Their CRP is off the chart. Their cortisol is off the chart. And we got to get that managed, because that's actually fighting your testosterone. So once we help that, we can and get that in line. It helps the other side. So it's a bolt on to our other business models.
Now when your clients come in, do clients still want to come in and ask for one specific thing, or are they made aware and informed that we offer all of these things, right? And this is the experience, or do you kind of wait till they come in for the consult and navigate through that?
So it's really based on their first initial questions. What did they click on? Like, what brought them to us in the first place? And we can see that. We have very clear identity of how they got to us, right? So we track what the click was, what the ad was. So we know. So we have a little insider info, right? When they come into the system, into the pipeline. Then we will base that conversation on a needs assessment. We allow them to start the journey, but then we will encourage the trail of the journey. So we will say, okay, we're here. By the way, is this a concern of yours? Is this something that sounds like this image? So we won't force feed them anything, because what we have found, Terry, honestly, is patience has been an incredible virtue. We will let them come in the system, get them started on one thing, because then we're going to give you all kinds of free shit. We're going to give you a free hydrofacial. We're going to give you a crazy discount on an IV. We're going to give you stuff, and you're going to be like, oh, wow, that was awesome. Like, what an incredible experience. And every person you talk to in the business is going to talk to you about the other things that we do. Oh, by the way, our probably one referral person in the whole business is our MA. She's incredible. Like one of our MAs, she's like, oh, like she intros more packages because she talks to them. She's given them a lipo shot maybe one day and they're just chit chatting. Oh, by the way, did you get your cool sculpting consultation? Oh my gosh, did you know we have a whole 10-pack of IVs? You get such a great discount as she's like sticking the needle in their vein, like having this conversation. Like it's incredible. But we always say, and everyone should know this in business, everyone's in sales when you're in business. Whether you're listen, when I was cleaning urinal cakes, I was in sales in the gym business back when I was a kid. Everyone's in sales.
Did you hear it? And see, Eric's preaching my words now. We have to be, right? But I think people get it, again, they get it twisted. And, this is what I've done for my whole 20 years. And it makes me very sad sometimes when they're like, well, the consultation's not long enough, or that, Eric only came in for this one thing, or Eric can't afford it. I'm like, it's not really up to us. Our whole sole responsibility is to make somebody look and feel their best and give them the options and the aptitude and that you have these things. And when you're right and ready, but if you want this outcome, it's a combination of these things. It's not one tool in the in the box for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, medical practitioners are fantastic servers, right? They love to help people. Most of them, that's just their nature. But so that doesn't mean you're not in sales. Like they don't have to sell, because if they're empathetic, caring, and they understand what we do is so great, and they've now seen the results they've had with other clients and how wonderful they've changed their lives, they do become like disciples of it. They say, hey, here's why this is a great option for you. And if it's just not an option for them, well, then I always say medicine is pretty cut and dry, especially when it comes to that. Either you're a candidate or you're not, especially for like hormone. Yep. That's a simple one. But if they are a candidate, you need to explain why the benefits are there, and what is the challenge if you don't do it, the harmful effects of not managing this. If I go to the doctor and the doctor tells me that, and they're not selling me on high cholesterol, right? Or, lowering it. Like, it's like, hey, you need to be on Crestor. Your cholesterol is 300. Your triglycerides are 190. Like, you got to do something. I don't have to be sold anything else after that conversation. Here's what's going to happen if I don't manage it. It's right. Pretty simple. That doctor's not in sales. They're in education at that point. And that's really what our people do really well. I think the more you are passionate about the tools you have, the education you have, and the knowledge base you garner. And that's really what we do well. I'm a big fan of continually educating my clients. I just bought all of them a bunch of the A4M modules. I do it. I spend the money, I invest in them, and I give it to them. I say, take them at your own thing. If you're going to get all the credit that goes on. Listen, they've got to get those CEUs anyway. Yep. I buy them for them. And listen, my clients are the benefit of that. Of course, and the business is the beneficiary of that.
Yeah. But I love too what you just said when we're thinking about any successful business or a successful leader. And we cannot be ignorant to want and expect and hold people accountable when we don't give them the opportunities and the resources and the tools to be successful. So you're showing them, hey, I'm investing in you because I want you to continue to elevate your skill set so that you can go give that great service to these patients so that they continue to come back. It is all about that. It's less about more. It's about nurturing the ones you have, getting more out of me so that I never really ever want to leave.
Yeah, Terry, I will tell you, our clients are incredible, and I see it all the time because when I'm in the back of the store here in Windermere, like they hug our people, they bring flowers, like one moment, like it smelled like this incredible, like it was like a delicious, I don't know what kind of, some kind of soup. I was like, what is it? Like, oh yeah, so and so brought this in for us. I was like, wow, like it's amazing how in love your clients can fall with you. Like and there's Raving Fans was a great book, right? Everyone should read it, but like it's all about that. And that's when you really know you're winning at a different level. And of course they're going to refer their husband, their wife, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their friend, their brother, sister. I mean, our internal referral system is nuts at this point. Like we don't even have to do much. Like we've got a cool, like, and and you may have done this one. We've got a cool like gumball machine at the front. Like if they do a Google review, they get to spin the gumball machine and out comes
stuff. I love that.
And and then they come like, and when they open it up, it's like a fortune cookie thing inside, and they open it up and they always win something, 20% off this service, 50, and some of them are really good. Some of them are totally free. We always put like a good one in there, like a cool sculpting thing. but they love to spin the machine. Like, and they, there's so many great things you can do to grow a brand and a business, but you've got to do the basic 101 stuff incredibly well every single day.
And that was going to lead into my next question. You've been, again, a highly successful businessman for a very long time. And whether it's gyms and coffee shops and, your serotonin centers now, what advice would you give people that want to get into this space? And let's put aside, because I know you mentioned it, you people have to have working capital, but it is sometimes so disheartening. And you retained us 3-4 years ago. At this point now, to scale in Apex, we're running, I think, our 6th program at a fraction of the cost. But people will say, I don't have the money. And I'm like, look, there are many ways to do things, but there are wrong ways to do things. And if you don't have, what I think our program is $40,000, I can make you that, and the discounts I'll save you. But right, you know what I'm saying? So I guess but they're not thinking about it that way, and then they try to do it on their own, and then all these bad things happen. So yeah, what are maybe, I don't know, 3 to 5? So you can say as many as you want. Like, what really strong advice would you give?
So the first advice, because I wouldn't be me without saying it, you got to go to serotoninfranchising.com. That's the first thing you'd have to do. But aside from that, if you really need to be very calculated in how you're going to start a business. And a lot of people will think, well, I don't have to do that. I'll just figure that out myself. Or I could do that this way. I could do it cheaper this way. And we used to have franchise candidates that would think that, like, they'll come in and they'll want to hear the presentation kind of thing, or learn more about it, and think, well, I could do all that. And I know they're thinking it, because I've been in this business long enough in franchise. I saw it in the gym business. I saw it when we were in the yogurt business. I saw it I've seen this many times. And I kind of almost wish they do. And I'm like, God, I hope you do. And I hope you kind of do it near me, because I know what's going to happen. So I would tell you that sometimes it's really good to take help when help is available, right? And whether that's retaining a consultant like yourself, or that's going into a franchise brand. And this isn't just for medical. I said, this is anything. If any of your listeners are thinking about any business, I don't care what it is. There's options out there that will offer you a better roadmap. And doesn't mean it's a shorter roadmap. It might feel like it's shorter. You still got to do the work and put in the time. But I would tell you that get the resources. Oh, listen, Terry, and you've said it over and over in this here interview. I had a lot of business experience, a lot of years. I still paid you, hired you, and worked with you like I was like a 12-year-old kid wanting to learn something new, right? I asked you the dumbest questions that may have seemed dumb, but I knew that I had to. Things I thought I knew, I'm like, well, let me get reassured then. If I think I know it, let me find out from someone who definitely knows it. People thought I was crazy for spending the kind of money I did with Bertadotto, but I knew I was going to grow the brand. Now, not everyone would do what I did with them over the timeline I did it, but I knew what we were doing. I knew we were going to be going, a national brand here. But you still need to do that. So I'll tell you what scares the crap out of me. You want to really scare, and if your listeners, they may be some of these people, or maybe they're just people that can go do this. Go take a peek on AM Spa's blogs. I follow that stuff. You think I'm a stalker. Like, I'm crazy. I get email alerts. So that's like my 1 o'clock in the morning stuff. And I'll do this crap like when I wake up at 5. Terry, some of the stuff, I know you see it. Some of the stuff in there is alarming. Like when I say like ring the bell alarming, like crazy. Like some of the stuff I read, I'm like, oh my God, you're going to go to jail. Or some of the other stuff is like, you don't know that and you're touching people? Like I have people, I saw the last one, there was like a whole trail of it about SOPs. I don't have any SOPs. I'm like, you can literally buy SOPs. Then someone said, oh my God, they're too expensive. Too expensive? That's like saying insurance. Like, you must not even have malpractice. I guarantee that person's not even insured. Like, I'm thinking, you're nuts. Like, these people have, it really does scare me. And sometimes and it's funny, you'll see, like, I'll go in there because I just generally have a heart for it. I actually comment. I'm like, hey, listen, you might want to contact these people. Like, I'll drop Birdhouse, or I'll drop about software. I'll drop a comment because I'm just generally concerned, like, this person's going to get hurt, and they just don't know what they don't know. And that is a lot of, you said 8,900, like, right? I mean, what was the count, right? I would say 75% of those places have a fraction of the business sense and an acumen, and maybe even what is legal happening in their business. Because I see the majority of what I see. I actually think that's a firm number, that some of them are scary. Even medical practices that are starting to try to get involved in this business. My own brother went to a doctor, and I was like, he gave him testosterone therapy. He gave him no other information, but here, go on this. I'm like, Rob, are you taking DIM? He's like, what's DIM? I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, how are you managing your estrogen? Well, I don't know. What do you mean? You just told me you feel like you're crying in church kind of thing. I'm like, what do you think's happening here? I'm like, it's a problem. like it's crazy the stuff that's going on. And I think, and the good news is for us, and I just said this to a COO that I'm interviewing right now, is at the end of the day, someone's going to have to be the adult in the room, and we are more than willing to hold the flag and be that. Every industry has a leader that holds the flag, right? McDonald's holds the hamburger one. We can say that Starbucks probably holds the coffee one. Planet Fitness certainly holds the fitness one right now. We're going to hold the one in the anti-aging medical spa business. Like, that's just our goal. Like, we know what we're doing. We know we're going, but we know why, because it takes a lot of resources, and quite frankly, it takes discipline, because I can see how easy it is to be, especially in some states where the corporate practice of medicine is a little easier, I should say. Like, you've got to really be disciplined about, you're taking care of people's health here. You're touching people. You're doing these medications. You got to know what the hell you're doing. And Terry, it is the wild, wild west, and it's not going to stay that way. So some of these people are going to get wiped out just by, I think, regulation. The others, maybe just because they don't understand business.
Yeah. No. And Mike, you said it so eloquently and with such passion, and I share the same passion. I don't sleep sometimes at night, and the calls that we get, there are no words. It's just quite alarming. And so, again, to echo what Eric said, is that, some of the non-negotiables are, right, understanding this business plan, having enough cash flow, cash reserves, looking at it, analyzing it, tweaking it, making changes, making sure you're, I always say I like to think Apex is like the nucleus, but Eric mentioned you have branding, you have software, you have legal, there's a whole host of things that none of it really can just be put by the wayside and, hoping and praying it's all going to work out. What do you wish someone told you, that little voice, your young self? What would that be?
It's interesting about when you asked that question, because Dr. Jacome, one of our head hormone doctors, he had said to me in a conversation, he goes, most people should start hormone replacement therapy 10 years before they actually think they need to, because it's too late. So starting sooner than later. Same thing with Botox. You know what happens if you don't start that aesthetic treatment earlier. Now, on the business side, that's the health side, right? So that's how we feel about health. We wish we knew what we didn't know, but that's it, right? You just got to learn that stuff as you go. On the business side, I will say, understanding, and we've talked about this offline. I heard you talking about it earlier as well. When it comes to funding a business, raising capital, all these important things, you really have to be patient and understand what it takes, because if you rush all of that stuff, it never ends well. And maybe you might think it ends well, but it maybe wouldn't have ended as well as it even could have, even if you were successful. Maybe you just gave away too much equity, or you did something too soon. You didn't have the patience. You wanted to get out of the gate too fast. As you know, because you were there, we built this business on paper first. And that's kind of like crazy, because you're spending tons. We spent tons of money. We hired everyone we had to hire. We spent more money than most people do when they actually opened the place before we even turned a hammer onto something. But you have to do those steps, because if you are really serious, you need to, because you're going to feel the pain later, much, much worse if you spend all of your money in this investment and you've gotten started and you didn't take the time to do all of those pre-opening steps that are required. So, I always say, and I have done that. I built my first gym. I didn't have the benefit of consultants and accountants and all those people, and I got them along the way. I am one of the very few lucky ones that was able to afford to stay in the game long enough to do that stuff. But I will tell you, every year I went to a conference or two. In the beginning, it was probably more like 3 or 4. I am still friends. In fact, one of my favorite consultants just retired in the fitness industry. I stayed friends with all of them. I don't even run that business anymore, but I still adore and have so much affection for all of those people. But every business, no matter what it is, like, go to the conferences, go to the shows, go do the one-on-ones. Yeah, you got it. Like the networking stuff, there's so much to that. Like, I was so upset that I missed the A4M in Vegas, but I'm like, all right, it's coming to Orlando. I'll be there. We know that the Congress Hall's here and I'm here, so that's perfect. But I generally have I get like a ton of FOMO when I don't go to stuff like that. Like, it's like, and I'm like, I got all this action happening. I'm like, but I still know. I'm like, wow, there's one little tidbit. What if I have a sidebar with Terri and she says, Eric, this is working phenomenal over here. Have you tried this? Like, that's all I need. I'll go home and I'll run with that and I'll put it in 80 places, like immediately.
Yeah, no, God, so amazing. Well, Eric, my God, this was so tremendous. And I really want to, again, thank you, Tribe, for listening. If you have a desire, if you want to reach out to Eric, if you want to learn more, I know he gave the website, but Eric, how can people find you, contact you, reach out to you if they have questions about this? I think you gave so much valuable information. And again, such kudos and congratulations to your success. And I'm so honored that I was part of it.
Thanks, Terri. Yeah, I'm very simple to find on Instagram. At Eric Casaburi, and on LinkedIn the same thing, at Eric Casaburi. You find me. That's where most people hit me on, and it's, my direct messages are great because I'm in and out of there pretty quick almost every day. So most people get me there better than email.
He's got a pretty astounding social media, guys. I dig it. I'm always following his stories. Well, Eric, again, so today this was all about how to build an exponential brand in the medical aesthetic space. Again, Eric Casaburi, founder, CEO of Serotonin Centers in Orlando. And I, my friend, am going to be in Orlando in May for speaking for BTL, and I'm coming to see you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to make sure, give me that. I'm going to be here. So of course
I will text you, lock it down. So I'm super excited. Awesome. I can't wait to see the place.
I love it.
And thank you guys so much for always being here, for listening, for supporting me. Please do me a favor if this resonated with you, if you have a desire to get into this space, even about the hormones. I know Eric mentioned a lot of things. Dr. Jacome, I know him well, by the way. He's working with us right now too. Good. I know, such a small world. Yep. But I think that there's also so many other ways to capitalize on the growth within your practice, and this hormone and weight loss is such an opportunity. So Eric, thank you again for being here, for sharing your successes with the tribe. And again, if you guys want to share this, please don't hesitate to do so. There will be everything in the show notes. And with that being said, guys, stay tuned for the next episode of In Touch with Terri. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to In Touch with Terri. We invite you to schedule a discovery call with our Apex team. The link to apexplatform.com can be found in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of In Touch with Terri.